Hey guys, we're back with episode 5 of the podcast. We have a super cool guest. I've been working with this guy for a minute. He's doing some incredible stuff, and he just pulled off something pretty cool too that we'll let him obviously talk about. But he pretty much he got 1,000 buyer conversations started on Instagram in the last 7 days, and it wasn't just 7 days of work that led up to this. And we'll let him talk about that and where his business is at. But I think that's something super cool to talk about. And there's going to be a whole lot more. And guys, this guy is young and he is getting after it. So if you're someone that's obviously young, you're struggling to grow in real estate right now, this is a conversation that you definitely want to listen to. Jaime, I'll let you go ahead, introduce yourself, talk a little bit about who you are so that people know, who you are, what you're doing, where you're at.
What's up, guys? My name is Jaime Gomez. I've been in real estate now. I'm in my 3rd year. This is my first year that I will be full-time in the business. So I, had a part-time job trying to survive as a young person in this world in a new market. So I'm from Miami originally. I went to college in Kansas City and moved here straight out of college. So I had 0 connections. I mean, literally 0 people that I knew from Charlotte. And, it's just been a journey since, trying to grow, surround myself. And at the end of the day, the most important thing for my business has been, one, work for the right people. My previous team leader and the team leader, now amazing agents, both top producers. So, working under top dogs is very important. And then, of course, my real estate coach, Peyson, and my social media coach, David, have just, it was the perfect combination of kind of unlocking my potential.
Well, talk about, I'm sure, because there's probably a lot of people, right, that are in the part-time phase, and then they're trying to move over to full-time. I know I was in the same boat. I worked at Starbucks, and I had to slowly I worked my butt off, and then slowly was able to transition to the full-time. Talk a little bit about like that transition and how you were able to get from the part-time to being a full-time agent, because I know there's a lot of agents stuck in that boat right now.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a pretty, conservative guy when it comes to money, and I like to play it safe. So, I was like, I'm not going to just jump into real estate and have 0 money and then like regress and then get a job. I was like, I just want to do this thing right from the get-go. And so, yeah, it, 100-hour weeks. I was serving tables, and I do have a degree. And I decided to just serve tables because it's the one thing that gave me the flexibility to make my own schedule and then work the real estate. So, I mean, I was, 5 days a week in the restaurant. Every second I was out of the restaurant, I was showing houses, open houses, whatever it was. Like, I was grinding. I mean, you know how it is.
Yeah. Now, beginning of your business, right? Everyone's always struggling to get clients. What were you doing to get clients, especially when you're working part-time? Like, what were you doing to consistently bring in clients, go on those showings, right? Be able to sell houses while working another job.
So the first thing was definitely finding a team that could support me, that had the marketing and the brand recognition that I needed. Because as a young person, people need that recognition to take you seriously. And then like at the end of the day, I honestly think like open houses it's always been very big, but it was hard at first because you have to do a lot of open houses to kind of make them start working for you. So I did a lot of cold calling, just the leads that were coming in, whoever I could call, I was calling, trying to meet people, friends, make friends. And then in the restaurant, like telling the chefs, hey, this is what I'm doing. Telling the servers, managers. I've now closed 4 or 5 people from the restaurant. So that's awesome. Also been fantastic for the business. But yeah, open houses, literally whatever I could do in the beginning until little by little those days in the restaurant started shrinking, which meant more days out in the field doing real estate. And then I really kind of ramped up the open houses really when I started getting coached by you. It's been almost a year now.
Yeah. Would you say open houses are really what ramped things up? Cold calling really ramped things up? What would you say is like really like, what's the one thing where you could say, okay, most of my business is probably coming from this, especially when you were still working? Okay.
Open house, for sure. Open house. I mean, My thought process with the open house is I feel like when someone comes in that door, it's a 50-50 shot, whether they're going to connect with me or not. At the end of the day, it's not about my expertise. It's not about how many houses I've sold. It's about, did we connect? Did I provide value in those 20 minutes that you were in that house? And so on the phone, the art of scripting and all that kind of goes more into play. And my thought process was like, all right, well, if someone's been cold calling for 10 years and I've been cold calling for 10 days, they're going to beat me every time. But if someone's been selling real estate for 10 years and I've been selling real estate for a year, if I connect with that person better than the veteran, there you go. So I thought it was just like a more of a fair shot to, converting that potential client.
I agree. That's what I always say. I think I made a post about it recently, talking about like when I first started doing open houses, like in the beginning, I was sitting these like $3 million houses. And out here, the average age of the person that comes and wants to buy that $3 million house is like 75 years old. And I'm still in my early 20s, but I'm like 19, 20 years old. I'm sitting in this $3 million house. And I know everything about the community. I know everything about the house. I know everything about the country club and, the course fees and, the social membership fees. I knew everything, right? But I could sit there literally every single weekend, have what I thought was great conversation, but no one wanted to work with me. Or if I got their phone number, I literally didn't matter how much I tracked people down, I couldn't convert them. And what it came down to, what I realized was I'm not connecting with these people. So then when I moved over to sitting these single family homes where it's these younger families coming in an area that I grew up in too, all of a sudden able to really be able to connect with people. And literally it was like this overnight. I started actually being able to convert clients from open houses. Like it was one weekend. I literally remember one weekend I was sitting in a $3 million house. The next weekend I was sitting in a $500,000 house. That next weekend I pulled 2 buyers. Both of those closed within the next 90 days. Like it was literally like just flipping it that simple. But it's because it's that face-to-face connection. And those people obviously cared and respected what I had to say. And we connected well because we could talk about the schools right there and the neighborhoods and everything like that. Versus the person that was 75 years old, they didn't care what I had to say. Like I'm not going to go out with them after to, we have Arnold Palmer's and go sit at the bar with them and, talk about what we did for the last 70 years of our life. I don't have that. So I think open houses, right, are really one of the best ways to generate leads. But I know this year, right, you came into an injury and then you also got into a car accident. So you kind of had to pivot how you do business this year. So let's talk about like how you had to pivot and like what that's been like and what now you're doing to drive business, because I think you're still recovering, right? From the car accident.
Yep, I have double PT sessions, so I'm still doing PT for my ankle and now my back and my neck. So yeah, this year has been very interesting. Super fun, but it's just part of life. Things happen, and so it's transformed my business. I mean, I couldn't walk for 2 months, which means no open houses. When open houses was almost 40% of my business, and so I did a lot of thinking. Okay, what could I do in case this ever happens again? What happens if I get super busy and I can't do a ton of open houses? How can I generate, business? And so I've done social media since the beginning. You can go to my account and see how many posts I've done.
How many is it again?
Over 450. I almost like 460 posts. 450
is that on
posts.
Just one platform, or is that like combined? Or
that's just Instagram. Double that on TikTok and double that on Facebook. Starting to think about doing YouTube and stuff, but my content's pretty authentic, pretty short, to the point. But yeah, I've been doing that over time, perfected it. And the big game changer was you don't know what you don't know. And so hiring you was a game changer. And then hiring my social media marketing, content coach, David, was game changer, because I had the work ethic, I had the vision, I just didn't have the right key to unlock it. And so combining you guys one unlocked the real estate potential and one unlocked the marketing potential. And then you combined it. And I mean, it's just like been completely game changer. Within a month of working with him, I mean, I've signed 2 clients from social media. And this is coming from signing 0 client. I mean, not even getting a single lead. Forget about a
Right.
client. So, but I didn't see results for 2 years. I stuck to it. I did it. You know, that's the biggest lesson here is you can't just do something for 6 months. I know 6 months is a long time, but you got to do something for over a year without any results. Maybe that's insanity, whatever it is. I call it will. And just, you know, keep trucking along until eventually it pays off.
Yeah, no, I did. I think I always talk about like my first 2.5 years, it felt like I was hitting my head up against a brick wall. Most people would probably quit and call me insane, but I'm here today because I was willing to stick through the 2.5 years of super inconsistent transactions and money flowing. And now look at it. Now we're closing an average of about 25 homes a month. So like, it's just like, you have to stick through some of that insanity and eventually everything clicks, right? Everything does figure out. But as you know, it goes like, you have to be in the right circles, right? Like being in the right circles, you have, it sounds like 3 really good circles. You have your team lead, you have David, your marketing coach, and then you have me and our group for the real estate, transaction side of things too. So I think like that was one thing that really clicked for me. It was like, I was not in the right circles my first 2.5 years. And then finally I decided one day, I called up one of my buddies now and I was like, hey, like I'm watching you guys keep growing. I'm not. Like, clearly I'm in the wrong circle. What do I need to do to be a part of whatever you're doing? And then that's when everything like really started to click for me too. Dude, it's awesome that you're your age, right? And you've already figured out, okay, I have to be in the right rooms with the right people to be able to grow faster. Because what's cool is like, we can like skip all the years that all these guys have been doing it forever, right? Like they took 20, 30 years to figure this out. And now we get to learn it all in a matter of like days, months, or a year. And so we get to skip like 20 to 30 years of beating our head against the pavement and only do it, for a short period of time. So I want to talk though more about, because you generated 1,000, buyer conversations in the last 7 days. I know it took 418 or something like that post, before it really actually did that. But things clicked. And now I would imagine, right, you've generated 1,000 buyer conversations and now you're starting to have to go through all these, right? And I know we were talking about this yesterday, but like, how are you going through all these? Because that's probably something people are wondering, right? Is once, okay, maybe you hit this right, you hit it right, you get the jackpot, you have 1,000 buyer conversations. You don't want those to die. And if you think about it, that's more than any agent can generate. Like that's more than what I can generate from sending open houses for a whole year, right? You just did it in a few days. So what are you doing right now to be able to manage those conversations and move those people into some type of an appointment?
So the first thing is just setting up a system through many chats. So like the first text, which is the most important, speed to lead, just like it would be for any other lead source. So they're instantly getting a text. And it's like a text that I wrote. It's not an automated text from Claude or ChatGPT. Like it's a text that, I wrote with the help of, my social media coach. And it's pretty authentic text. And the idea is just, I want to start a conversation because odds are that home may not be perfect for them. I want to understand what perfect looks for them and see if I can be a resource. Cause that's the biggest thing. Like, just being a resource instead of like, oh, I'm just trying to sell houses. Try to be a resource and have conversations with people and you'll see what's going to happen. But I did, like when the post first started to pop off, I didn't think anything of it because again, I've posted so many posts and I didn't set up many chats. So it took me about an hour like to go through the first 100 comments and I answered everyone directly. I just took the time, which I think that's the biggest thing in real estate is you have to be willing to put in the time it takes. And then once they respond to that first text, I take over and I have, it's a lot of conversations and I'm definitely systemizing it, but I want to have real conversations with people. Like I got into this business to not just learn about real estate, but to help people. And so if I can have real conversations with people, whether it's in the DMs, in person, on the phone, and be a resource, they kind of attract to that. I'm not trying to sell them anything. I don't ask for a phone call or for a buyer agency agreement signed right there in the first DM. Like, I'm just trying to understand where you're at. And that's really it. And yes, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it does. I remember one of the first posts that I had that blew up is the one where I talked about me doing the 100 open houses in 100 days. This is the first post I did about it. It has like 300,000 views on it today, and I had like a few thousand comments on it, and I did not know what mini chat was. So I manually went through and had to respond to everyone and like talk to everyone, and it took forever. And so like I think getting to use mini chat for some of that automation, right, to make your life easier. And then so people write just to break down the post for people, you make a post, it's a home tour, right? And in the beginning of the post, you have some like key highlights, right, on the post.
Yeah.
So you have some key highlights.
Yeah. So I'll put like important information. People love dates and numbers. And again, some of this I knew, a lot of this was taught to me. So again, going right back to it, get someone who can teach you. But yeah, so, I put a title, call it something. The one that popped off, I think, was like 1955. We have a lot of those type of brick style homes in Charlotte that are starting to be kind of turned over. And so I personally love them. So I went and filmed. I, didn't think much of it, but I put something important. So like that post was close to all the private schools, and also like had good public schools. So I put minutes from good schools. People, especially in my market, like you have to understand your market and what your market is attracted to. My market schools
Right.
play a very big role into the home people are choosing and the neighborhood they're locking in. So, I put the location, and then just like, the bathrooms and the bedrooms and stuff. You'll have to figure out your own style. You'll have to figure out what you like. But that's where a coach kind of helps you one-on-one figure out how do you want to represent yourself? Because I also don't want to, make jokes and stuff like that. I'm trying to stick to it. I'm not that funny of a person. So you got to stick to your personality, like get to the point. The first part of the video is very short, just me explaining to them either what they're looking for, what their life can feel like in that home, an emotional connection. Not just like, oh, well, this has 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms and 3,000 square feet. It's about like
Right.
what emotionally will attract them to that home. And then I try to put like 2 or 3 kind of clips of things that I liked about the home personally. And then I just get right into the tour.
Love it. And I know we were watching your video yesterday, right? I thought one of the interesting things, and I don't even think you had even noticed it yourself, but I was noticing it that kept me more engaged, was the way you were like curving around corners with your phone. So you had no idea that was even something, like you weren't trying to do that. Like that wasn't like a purposeful thing. That was just you just curving corners.
I'm trying to get better at the gimbal. It's just something that I, need to learn and get better at. That's a complete accident. But now I know, hey,
great.
It's attractive. So it's like, you go editing your stuff, and you've really got to like criticize yourself. Like my dad's constantly critiquing me. My friends are constantly critiquing me, like, which is good. Like, I love it. Like, tell me what's engaging to you, how I can do better. So definitely like that's an accident, but then you go, okay, well, that was an accident, but like people like that. So let me try to figure out a way I can do that, more consistently. Same with the captions. Like before I wasn't doing captions on my voiceover. My coach is like, hey, let's try captions. We tried captions. Captions work. We're doing captions.
Captions are like a must, because I even like all my posts, right, have captions, but like and the reason why I started doing them was I was thinking like, okay, think about how many people, right, are sitting in a spot where they can't have audio on, but they want to watch. And like, I even think about like, I wake up hours before my wife does, right? And for the first few minutes, like I wake up, I'm just trying to wake up and I'm just scrolling for a few minutes just to like just wake up. But I can't have the sound blaring because my wife's sleeping right next to me. And if I wake her up, I'm in trouble. So I have, sound off and I'm just reading captions. And if a video doesn't have captions, I'm scrolling past it because like I can't listen to it. So I can only read it. So I'm sure like that alone is going to massively help. And then obviously too, I think, I know you didn't do that first, right? But the mini chat automation and having that and having it to where it actually replies to the comments. I don't think people understand like when you have a social media post and people start commenting a bunch on it, you need to be responding to those posts immediately, right? Because that's what drives people back to the post, the same people. And then other people start to naturally want to engage too, because they're seeing other people are engaging. And if they see a post has, a couple hundred comments, they're going to be like, what are the couple hundred comments about? And they're going to open up the comments just to see what's going on, right? And having many chats where, like in your case, they commented the keyword break. And then it's just, you had 3 automations from ManyChat, 3 different messages, right? And it sends to them. You don't even have to touch it, worry about it. So you could continue to sit in the open houses, doing the showings, doing whatever. And then you can go and start responding to people as soon as, you have the time. So I think the other thing is, and we had talked about it, right, is the stand store. Is that something that you're now going to give a shot?
So I'm looking at that. I've got to evaluate, and there's like no right way to do something.
No.
So I'm definitely like now playing with the idea of like, okay, well, we can do this. I do like the kind of text. It feels more like an authentic text. But there is a way to still send my authentic text. Once they reply yes or no to that authentic text, then I can have the stand store pop up and actually send them the guide while still asking them the question of like, are you specifically looking for homes that look like this? That's the question I'm asking. Just to start the conversation, and I just want to learn what they're doing. So yes, there's so many different systems, and like now I have to dedicate time to figuring out how I want to do it. Because it's not like everything can work potentially. It's just about how like you want to do it. So, but yes, that would save me tons of time, and creating kind of like brochure style property kind of sheets. I really like that idea, and using Claude to do that. So there's like different formulas that I'm still working on, but yes, that one's definitely like potentially going to be, implemented. Depends how much traction I start to get. Like if it's just so much that I can't have these personal conversations, then yeah, we might have to revert to some more AI and systems like that. But for right now, I'm going to do my best to actually like have the conversations with people. Because again, that's why we're in this business.
Yeah. No, and I think too, right? When you use something like ManyChat and Stand Store, it's just I like it to where it just helps get the conversation going, and then gets them the guide, right? Because a lot of times people want this guide right away. Whether it be a home buyer guide, a home seller guide, maybe a house specifically, maybe a partnership you do with a coffee shop, whatever it may be. People want stuff instant. So that was like the reason why I started using the ManyChat with the Stand Store automation. And then I go back in right after and I start, manually talking to people and having conversation. Because obviously ManyChat can't convert anyone for you. Stand Store can't convert anyone for you. All they're there for is like think about if you consistently start doing this, right? Say hypothetically, like every week you have one post that does start to generate 500 to 1,000 new buyer conversations. Then what are you going to do? Because one man can't handle all that, right? Like even I'm sure now, like how many, you have 1,000 people that, you started DMs with. How many have you actually had conversations with so far?
I'd say a little over 50. So out of the 1,000 people, I've probably had a little over 50. I've already signed one buyer from it. And out of those 50 conversations, I'd probably got like 15 people's, actual contact information. And I've probably set up like 4 or 5 calls at this point, and probably got like 2 or 3 like calls to me without setting it up. So those are the numbers. Now, just like with the open house, just like with the cold call, once you do this long enough, you start to figure out what the conversion is, what you need to be doing. and then you kind of work it back.
Right. So one thing I think would be good to think about, right, is you said you've reached out to 50. You have another 950-ish to go through still. So that's where that having that stand store guide, and this is where maybe what you could do eventually, look into this, is have the stand store guide. At the end of the stand store guide, have a QR code for them to scan or a link to a Calendly. Because then people are automatically going to start booking. Because think that's 950 people that have not heard back from you yet that requested something from you, because it takes so long to get back to them. And out of those 950, odds are if you had that Calendly link, booked in with a guide, like you give the guide first, they get to read through the guide. Then at the end of the guide, they're like, okay, this was a lot of value. I like Jaime. This is cool, right? I bet at least 5 people that you haven't talked to would have booked a Calendly call with you to learn more about the market.
Yeah, no, there's definitely like a lot of work to do. It just never stops. So it's like, all right, well, this works. So now let's perfect
improve, fix. Yeah, improve, fix.
Same with the open house. Like, all right, this is working. Like, now we got to perfect it.
Well, you got something down, right? That most people are trying to figure out, have no idea. Like, you have something that works. And like I said, 1,000 leads, like essentially that's enough to cover you probably for the next couple of years if you work it right. Right. So that's the cool thing. So, and you did it completely organically, no paid marketing, no videographer, no fancy, gimbal, or you had a gimbal, but you spent $80 to $100 maybe on an iPhone gimbal.
Yeah. It was like $75.
You're like $100 into this between mini chat and the gimbal, and you generated 1,000 buyer leads. That's nuts. So I would say you're off to an awesome start, and I'm excited to see where this continues, obviously, to keep going. I think you might have just found something really sweet, for you that you can really start to lean in on. Now, if you were, put yourself in the shoes of a brand new agent, what are 3 things that you'd recommend any new agent to do today if they're struggling, don't know what to do, don't have business, aren't in a spot they want to be in?
Number 1, the most important thing, you need to join a team, and you need to join a team that are top producing. I'm the person on the team that produces the least amount. Everyone's 5+ years on my team. They're all selling real estate left and right. My team leader, in my opinion, he's top 3 real estate agent in probably the entire state. So that's who I get to learn on a daily basis. So that's number 1. You need to find a mentor, and you need to just forget about the splits. My mentor from my internship, because I did do a marketing internship in real estate before I even sold a piece of real estate, he told me, do you want the whole grape, or would you like a slice of the watermelon? Me personally, I prefer a slice of the watermelon. That being said, it's the splits do matter, but the most important thing is, who are you going to learn from? How are you going to grow? Because eventually, yes, you can get better splits and stuff, but really pick the right person that you want to emulate your business out, because we're not reinventing the wheel here. Second, go sit open houses. It's the easiest way to pick up clients. If you're in a really hot market, people are going to come through the door. They're going to connect with you. The more you do, the better you're going to get at it, and the more you'll get out of it. And then the third thing is hire a coach. Once you figure out what your pillar is, so first hire a real estate coach. My suggestion is just hire Peyson. Don't complicate it. It's also a group of killers. Sam's a freaking killer. So that motivates me. He's younger than both of us, and he's, taking over Philadelphia. So be in a group of people that are, if you're young, be in a group of young people that are like-minded. If you're a mom, be in a group of moms that are killing it in real estate. Pick your thing. And then once you do figure out your pillars, so for me it was open houses and social media, seek extra help for that one pillar. So for me it was social media. I spent some money, and I'm just getting taught, and I'm learning, and I'm implementing to my business. But don't just do a social media coach and then you don't know how to run with the transaction. You need both. At the end of the day, we're in the business of selling real estate. This is just a lead gen tool, which is the most important thing in your business for sure, but you've got to be able to sell real estate.
100%. Now, where can people find you on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok? Where's the best place for people to reach out to you if they have questions about growing their business or just want to follow you?
So my tag is Jaime G_real estate for everything. You can reach out with any questions. I'm pretty open, pretty transparent. But again, this secret sauce is a combination of many people teaching me. This is not something I invented. So I'm just putting in the work and learning.
That you absolutely are, man. That's why I was like, we have to do this podcast. That's exactly why you're putting in all the work.
Thank you for having me, for sure.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you for coming on. And we'll wrap it up here. I'll make sure to obviously drop your Instagram into the description so that people can reach out to you that way too. So thank you again,
awesome.
bro. This was awesome. So
yeah, this was awesome, man. Thank you so much.